We've gotten so many requests for this one. We started with the 70s. You've been asking for the 80s, so here it is. The top one-song vocal performances of the Neon Decade. One classic anthem where the singer sang the final chorus in such a high key, he was never able to replicate it live. Another song where the singer was so overwhelmed by the song's realism, he barely made it through the recording. And there's one that was about vampires hooking up, but it was sung with such feeling, nobody even noticed. And another that saved a legendary band's career with one hypnotic scream. And the artist at number one, well, his voice was so spectacular. With so many stunning performances, he could have easily dominated the entire list. Could have had all 5 slots, and so could have the number 2 singer. Our countdown of the top one-song vocal performance of the 80s is coming up next. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember using a red vine or a Twizzler as a straw back in the day, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. You remember you bite off both ends and yeah. Make sure to subscribe below right now. Click the white button and click the bell so you always know when stuff comes out. Also, check us out at ProfessorRock.com. We got some cool stuff happening there. I'm going to be interviewing athletes, actors, and other people on some of their favorite songs of all time. Great content there. You can see, stream, ProfessorRock.com. Man, selecting 5 of the greatest one-song vocal moments from an exceptional decade of music like the 80s. It seemed impossible at first. You know, when the POR community has asked me about doing this countdown if we did the 70s, I didn't think I could do it. But the moments we chose were arguably unrivaled standard bearers of excellence and achievement, even though there are countless others that could have made this list, and we're kind of focusing on the rock genre here. So we start off our countdown, our vocal countdown, with the greatest female rock voice of the 70s and 80s, in my opinion. I got Ann Wilson's Wailing, Tour de Force, and Hearts Alone at number 5. By the time Ann put her glorious voice to Alone in 87, it had already been recorded by the co-authors of the tune, songwriting duo Billy Steinberg and Tom Kelly. I got the details about how the song was conceived by Billy and Ann. Here's what they said.
Tom Kelly and Billy Steinberg are really talented guys. I mean, they're some of the more talented songwriting teams I've ever seen. I don't know if they had the idea that it was for me to sing. I'm not sure about that.
We got a phone call. They're looking for a power ballad for Heart. So we made a new demo. It's essentially just a drum machine, Tom playing the piano and singing it. But he really nailed it. It's a great demo, and Heart heard it and loved it, and that's the story.
You know, I'm kind of a drama queen. You know, that song was perfect for a drama queen.
Yeah.
It's so theatrical. It still works live today. We brought it way down small live, but it doesn't matter if it's acoustic or if it's the big 80s overkill thing, you know, it's still, the song calls the shot.
To touch your lips and hold you tight.
I hear Heart's version on the radio and I just feel like that's, you know, it holds up for me. I'm really happy with that song, proud of it.
What I love is Ron Nevison, that you guys would sing Bad Medicine to Ron Nevison.
Yeah.
But you were kind of butting heads, but he told you in that second verse, hey, let's delay for you to go into that second chorus. And you let out this heavenly scream. That's one of the greatest emotions ever put down on a pop album or a pop record.
Wow.
You know, tell me about that moment.
Musically, I think the key that the song was in is here. The scream is an octave up from it. And emotionally, the song goes here and it goes up to here. So to me, it's very natural to go like, alone, you know, or whatever key it's in. I don't have relative pitch, but emotionally, it just was one of those, I'm attached to this key, but I'm going to take it way up there. I'm feeling way more than 13 tones, at least an octave, you know, soul jump. It's nothing about being careful. It's about letting everything out, you know?
Absolutely. And it's one of those moments on a record where I remember as a kid, because you have the cassette, rewinding it and playing it again, rewinding it and playing it again. I mean, you probably remember taking records and listening to the parts again and just going, what was that? That power of music.
Yeah.
Oh, that scream. It's just otherworldly. Heart's signature version of Alone was a massive smash, of course. It was the lead single for the band's ninth studio album, Bad Animals, rising to number 3 in the UK and number 1 in Canada and here on the Billboard Hot 100. Man, Anne's astronomical range is one of the main reasons why her performance on Alone is so amazing. But you know, it's also her gifted control. Anne starts her vocal soft and vulnerable in the verses and then builds to that explosive soaring chorus that sends us all into sonic ecstasy. And her tone, just rich, clear, and full of intensity. But it never loses its warmth. It's the kind of performance that grabs you from the first note and it never lets you go until the song is done. Alone is a dynamic example of why Ann Wilson is one of the greatest singers in rock history. So coming in next on our countdown is a seminal rock track from one of the best-selling albums of all time. At number 4, it's the blue-collar authenticity of one John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora, Living on a Prayer by Bon Jovi. Also co-written by Desmond Child, this song tells the story of Tommy and Gina, a young couple inspired by a real-life chapter in Desmond Child's life. Of course, in the song, Gina was a waitress and Tommy worked on the docks. But at the time of writing of Living on a Prayer, Desmond Child was living with his then girlfriend, singer Maria Vidal. According to Desmond, he worked as a New York taxi driver while Maria was a singing waitress at a diner. Her co-workers nicknamed her Gina because she resembled Italian actress Gina Lollobrigida. And she even adopted the stage name Gina Velvet. Ironically, John Bon Jovi was not a fan of the original version of this song. So much so that it ended up as a hidden track on 100 Million Bon Jovi Fans Can't Be Wrong. He initially wanted to scrap it altogether, get rid of it. But Richie Sambora heard its potential and convinced his buddy to give it another shot. They revamped it with a fresh bass line played uncredited by Hugh McDonald. There was new drum fills and, of course, that signature talk box, which gave the song its distinctive sound. As the second single from Bon Jovi's blockbuster album Slippery When Wet, Living on a Prayer truly resonated in the hearts of millions of fans. Quickly shot to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 4 weeks. And I know it's overplayed, but man, his vocal on this thing, the message of the song is succinct and powerful. You work hard, you build your life, and you achieve the American dream. Kinda, right? John Bon Jovi said that. No matter how dire your circumstances may be, you can make it. Now, John Bon Jovi's vocal on Living on a Prayer, it's just pure rock magic. What makes it so great? Well, first, there's the sheer power. John belts out those high notes with an almost effortless intensity, at least on the recording. It drives the song's anthemic energy. Then there's his rasp, that gritty edge in his voice that gives the song its raw working class spirit. But what really seals the deal is the way he builds his performance. Starting with a storytelling tone in the verses, and then you're ramping up the urgency until he's soaring in that legendary key change at the end. That moment when he hits the chorus after the big modulation with Richie's stellar support vocal gives you goosebumps every time, no matter how many times you've heard it. It's a perfect mix of passion, technique, and rock and roll attitude. It doesn't matter that the song, like I said, is overplayed, and John Bon Jovi would never be able to hit those notes ever again. It's one of the most singable and electrifying vocals in rock history. Doesn't matter what you think of the band, it's just truth. You know, Sammy Hagar delivered many extraordinary vocal performances during his tenure with Van Halen and solo. But you know what? His best was his burning, impassioned performance on one of my favorite songs ever, Dreams. Sammy's vocal comes in at number 3 on our countdown of the top 5 vocal moments of the 80s, one-song vocal performances. Dreams is yet another motivational track about following your aspirations and letting nothing stop you. As the lyric goes, reach for the sky, spread your wings. Sammy wrote the lyrics for Dreams, and if pushed, has called it his favorite song that he wrote during his Van Halen years. Just saying a lot. As with every song that Sammy the Red Rocker collaborated on with the incomparable Eddie Van Halen, there is a great story here. Here's what he told me about it. Dreams is a song that I remember as a 9-year-old kid. I mean, it just made me think I could do anything.
There you go,
it was
man.
one of those songs where standing on broken dreams, never losing sight. I mean, those words throughout the last 30 years have inspired me. Where did it first come from?
You know, I like to give Eddie more credit than myself, even though I wrote all those lyrics and those melodies. If it wasn't for the piece of music that he handed me, I wouldn't have thought of those lyrics. I mean, I was trying to write spiritual lyrics. It's where I was going in my life and in my head.
When you have a dream, you have something you can chase after, something you go for, something that keeps you alive and keeps you just moving forward and changing.
But you got to have a vehicle. You know, you can sit and write lyrics all day long.
Right.
But musically, as a guitarist and as a musician, I'm not schooled. And I'm like more like a blues-based guy. So when I write my own stuff, it's always a riff blues-based, to where Eddie's schooled, disciplined musician that knows music, and he can write a lifting part. I'm going, woo! Yeah, I can't write that. And that was the magic of our relationship. And, you know, Eddie doesn't write lyrics and he doesn't sing. What a beautiful marriage. And I was willing, you know, a lot of guys wouldn't be willing to take the guitar and throw it in the corner. Are you kidding me? I don't need to play that thing. You know, we got a guitar player. And that's what made the magical relationship.
On Dreams, Sammy pushed his range to the limit with soaring sky-high notes that seemed almost superhuman. The way he attacks the song with, full throttle intensity, especially in that towering chorus, just gives it an electrifying, almost euphoric feel. Sammy's voice is both powerful and melodic, effortlessly gliding over the intricate vocal lines while maintaining that signature tenacity and passion. The high register he sustains throughout the track is just remarkable, making Dreams one of the most vocally demanding songs in Van Halen's catalog for sure. It's proof that Sammy Hagar wasn't just a great frontman who constantly broke the speed limit. He was also a vocal powerhouse that could not be held back. At his peak, he was one of the best ever. Now, Dreams was the second single from 5150, Sammy's first of 4 albums with Van Halen. Single climbed to number 6 on the top rock tracks and plateaued at number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1986. Now, it was incredibly hard to decide what would be my number 1 pick for the next 2 tracks. I had to decide between them. My favorite singer of all time versus a song that many professional singers have told me is the most difficult song to sing in rock history. So my final decision came with the quality of the song, and that won out by just a hair. Again, on any given day, my number 2 could be my number 1 and vice versa. But for today, here's how it shakes out. In number 2, I have a deep album cut performance by one of the most gifted vocalists of the rock era, my personal favorite singer of all time. At number 2, I've got Steve Perry's fervent prayer to save his family on Mother Father by Journey.
Hey, mother.
In Mother Father, Steve reveals the fragile state of his mother. Mother, she sits alone with an empty stare, a mother's face she wears. Where did she go wrong? The fight is gone. Lord, help this broken home.
Lord, help this broken home.
And then Steve turns his attention to his father. With dreams he tried, but he lost his pride. He drinks his life away. One photograph in broken glass. It should not end this way. Beautiful lyrics. One of his best songs lyrically, I think.
His life away.
Steve Perry's vocal performance on Mother Father, it's nothing short of jaw-dropping phenomenal. It's one of his most intense and dynamic deliveries, showcasing his full range from soulful restraint in the verses to explosive, almost operatic highs in the chorus. It's a perfect song for Perry's perfect voice. The way he navigates the song's shifting moods from frustration, exasperation, desperation, and defiance. It's just pure mastery. His sustained notes and emotional grip make it clear why he's considered one of rock's greatest vocalists. It's a powerhouse performance for sure. It stands as one of the most underrated moments in Journey's catalog. Since Mother Father came from a deeply personal and heartbreaking place outside of his professional life, Steve struggled to sing it without breaking down in tears. Just imagine how hard that would be. But despite the emotional weight of the song, get this, Steve delivered the vocal on the Escape album version of this song in one single take. One take. Can you believe that? It was an incredible feat just to hold it together. Now, Steve's mother died from a neurological disease in '85, and Steve's father, Ray, passed away from natural causes. But, after his death, Steve did something really cool to honor him and his influence on his career, his musical career. Now, I've mentioned this before, but for those of you who haven't heard, Steve recorded a cover of Bobby Darin's Call Me Irresponsible, and he actually extracted his father's singing part off a karaoke machine from 1993. Clever use of technology created a very moving duet between father and son.
Responsible, yes, I.
Steve shared that his father was a huge influence on him from his earliest memories. His father used to sing to Steve when he was a young child. And I guess Call Me Irresponsible is one of his favorite songs.
Irresponsible.
Now, sure, Journey is known for their big anthemic hits. I mean, who hasn't belted out Don't Stop Believin', or their power ballads, Open Arms, or Faithfully?
Don't stop believing.
But if you really want to appreciate the band's depth and Steve Perry's insane vocal range, Mother Father is a must listen. It's one of those hidden gems that shows just how much more there is to Journey beyond the sing-along classics. I mean, there's so many great songs. Escape is another one that's great. Whether you're a longtime fan or just diving in, exploring their deeper cuts gives you a whole new appreciation for their impact on rock and roll. Well, here we are, the number one spot. Again, it could have gone to Steve Perry on any other day, but I'm going to unveil my top one song vocal moment of the 80s. A truly mind-blowing performance from an artist who embodies what it means to be a rock vocalist. He hasn't gotten the attention he deserves, in my opinion, but I'm going to go with my number one pick, Lou Graham's electrifying incendiary performance on Foreigner's Jukebox Hero. Lou Graham is not only one of the greatest singers in history, he's one of the good guys of rock. I have a 13-year-old son, I think I've mentioned before, he has autism. And when I interviewed Lou and did a Professor Rock live gig together, songs and stories, he saw my son before the show and people were wanting to take pictures of him. And he noticed my son. He walked over and said, "You're a special guy. We're going to take a picture together, just you and me." And he went in depth with my son and really talked to him and took him aside after the concert, really spent time with him. Then I interviewed him about a year later when they got nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I was doing a Zoom interview with him, and he asked me how my son was, knew his name, talked to him. He's an incredible person, Lou. I can't say enough about Lou Graham, just a great human being. Here's what Lou told me about the impetus and evolution of Jukebox Hero. It's like superhuman.
The song, I mean, it just took that path when I was working on it, and I was very blessed that I was able to hit the notes that I wrote, you know, or I would have had to disassemble a song and make it something else. But I was very fortunate to be able to go from that real low down, standing in the rain, you know, that real hunkered down beginning.
Standing in the rain.
To the gotta keep it rocking, you know.
Ain't never gonna stop. Gotta keep on rocking.
And I think that between the initial verse, that second section that I just sang a little bit, and the Jukebox Hero, there's 3 very dynamic sections to that song. It makes the song really come alive, I think.
Now, there are at least 5 other performances by Lou Gramm that are worthy of making our top 5 vocal moments of the 80s countdown. There's his momentous execution on Urgent, his enthralling romantic delivery on Waiting for a Girl Like You, what an atmospheric song, and his soulful vulnerability on I Want to Know What Love Is. We just covered that recently.
I've been waiting for a girl like one you to show me.
I picked Lou's performance on Jukebox Hero as the top one-song vocal moment of the 80s because of how incredibly difficult it is to sing. And with the utmost respect for other songs we mentioned, plenty of rock vocalists, no matter how skilled, have called Jukebox Hero one of the most challenging songs to pull off, and for good reason.
Like a distant scream, he heard one guitar.
From the very first note, Lou pulls you in with his raw storytelling intensity, starting low and brooding before launching into a full-on beast mode, you know, as the song continues to get bigger.
Standing in the rain, with his head hung low.
The balance of highs and lows it takes to master this song is relentless. Lou shreds through the vocal sections with pure fire, making you feel every ounce of hunger and determination in these lyrics. It's that perfect blend of emotion and edge and vocal gymnastics that makes this performance one of the greatest in rock history. Jukebox Hero was the 3rd single taken from Foreigner 4, one of the best LPs of the rock era. It was a number 3 staple on the Billboard Mainstream Rock chart. Also hit number 24 in Germany and went to number 26 in the Billboard Hot 100. Number 7 in South Africa, but much bigger than its chart position. So I have to give at least a couple of honorable mentions here. Barely missing the countdown are 3 unforgettable candidates, starting with Phil Collins on Against All Odds. Now, Phil created Against All Odds at the behest of film director Taylor Hackford, who wanted Phil to write a song for the movie of the same name. Now, Phil had something in the works that he called How Can You Sit There? And it was the foundation for the title track of the movie. Against All Odds was the first of 7 number 1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100 for Phil. He won a Grammy Award for it in 1984. It was the song that established him as one of the best vocalists on the planet. Genesis fans knew of his enormous talent, especially from his work on the Duke album. But, you know, his urgent, emotional performance on Against All Odds is just gripping, especially in the song's climax. I mean, you can absolutely feel his pain in this breathtaking song. Our second honorable mention is the breathtaking vocal performance of Bonnie Tyler on Jim Steinman's Total Eclipse of the Heart. Jim Steinman wasn't one to spell out the meaning behind his lyrics, but he did reveal that this one was an homage to the 1922 vampire film Nosferatu, a take on the Dracula story. That definitely puts the whole Love in the Dark vibe into perspective.
There was light in my life, but now there's only love in the dark.
The singer is on edge, lonely, anxious, even terrified, calling out for her lover, seemingly ready to join him in a forever that might not just be poetic because, vampires are immortal. And when he finally comes to her, that's the total eclipse of the heart. Forever starts tonight. When it comes right down to it, Total Eclipse of the Heart is about vampires hooking up. A vampire sex song, if you will. Jim specifically wanted Bonnie Tyler to do the challenging vocal for Total Eclipse of the Heart, even though a lot of people said that it was written for Meatloaf. It really wasn't. Bonnie was looking for a comeback after recovering from a complicated vocal cord surgery, which had given her voice that signature raspy edge. Steinman, of course known for his theatrical, larger-than-life songwriting, most famously displayed on Meatloaf's monster album Bat Out of Hell. And Jim thought that Bonnie had the perfect voice for the song's dramatic intensity, and he was exactly right. Bonnie rose to the occasion and made it one of the best songs of the time. The song reached number one on virtually every continent: Australia, the UK, South Africa, Japan, Brazil. Held the number one spot here for 4 weeks. The reason I didn't pick those two is because they weren't necessarily rock songs. Last but not least, I got to give some love to Dave Bickler, the first singer of Survivor, for his otherworldly performance of Eye of the Tiger. One that on any other day would have made the top 5, maybe even number 1. It's a vocal so severe, it may have cost Bickler his career at the time. Just months after recording it, he lost his voice for years. Thinking of Survivor, Jimmy Jamison, he could have been on here too. So many great vocal performances in the 80s. So thanks so much for watching our countdown. Let me ask you, what are your top 5 vocal moments, one song vocal performances of the 80s? Surprise, I got through that, guys. I have had such a bad cold for 2 weeks, sinus infection and everything, so appreciate you bearing with me. But let me know, what do you think of my picks? I know I'm getting a lot of hate for going Lou Gramm over Steve Perry. Steve Perry, I think, gets him by a hair, but for the song, I went with Jukebox Hero. Let's have a great discussion below. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.